Everyone. I think we may still have some folks joining in. I'll keep an eye out for any additional folks who are signing on, but we wanted to go ahead and get started. I know everyone may have other things they want to do this evening as well. So my name is Eileen Winquist. I help with communications and engagement for our stormwater program, and we have several other staff here as well tonight, and I'll let them introduce themselves. I think we also have Elizabeth Thurber. Liz, do you want to? There's Liz.
You want me to say something?
Just, your role.
I'm Elizabeth Thurber. I'm the program manager for stormwater infrastructure. I'm also the floodplain administrator.
Okay, I have a couple more folks joining in here. John, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Clemens. I will be one of the project managers on the site, and I work under Liz on the infrastructure team.
Great, thanks, John. And when we get started, I may ask folks to just mute yourself while we're going through some of the presentation, because sometimes we do get a little bit of that feedback if we have a lot of microphones, if everyone has their microphones kind of open. So we also have, I believe, Jennifer Tested and Demetra, if you guys want to introduce yourselves as well real quick.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer Tastad. I am the team lead for the stormwater infrastructure group.
Great, thank you. And Demetra, I think,
McBride. Most of you know me virtually or in real life. I want to thank. I'm not going to discuss my role. I'm going to just thank everyone for taking this time tonight, and I do want to give everybody the encouragement that this is the first of many conversations and an ongoing dialogue. And I'm confident that we're going to reach a fruitful solution that is going to be mutually agreeable to everyone. This is just the beginning of a little bit of a journey. So with that in mind, I will turn it back over to Eileen.
Great. Thank you, Demetra. I was going to say, I think something similar. I'll just briefly talk about our agenda, and then I was going to turn it over to John, who is going to be talking through some of the information about the upcoming demolition, because we wanted to definitely, provide everyone with that information. And then we have also allowed some time at the end, because I know we've had some other, general questions about the voluntary acquisition program. So we wanted to have some time to discuss that as well. So we did, and I think Demetra mentioned this as well, we know this is, a new program, and so there is, just a lot of questions and some anxiety about the process. And, again, it's new for all of us. But as Demetra mentioned, we've been working with Waverly Hills for several years, and, we've been really striving to find a solution to help reduce flood risk. So we just want to, remember that we're all, working together with good intentions and trying to find that solution, as Demetra had referred to. So we did, and also wanted to just highlight, I know we've had, a lot of questions again about, sort of future plans with the properties, but we did just want to sort of remind everyone of what we're dealing with during some of the storms in this area. So again, this is something that we do need to keep in mind as we, make plans for the future use of these properties. And so with that, I will turn it over to John. And again, he's going to go over some of the information about the specific demolition project and some of the, site-specific plans. So, John.
Thank you, Eileen. Once again, I'm John Clemens. If you guys missed that in the beginning, I will be one of the project managers for this site, for this demo site. And to jump right in, we're going to go with the phases of the demolition project. Phase 1 is pretty much complete. We have plan developed, and it is in the permitting process. The utility disconnections have been made. This phase 2 will be physically on the site. with the contractor doing the abatement of hazardous materials, and then the removal of the structure, followed by seeding of the footprint of the house. Excuse me. So with the contractor scheduling, that is based on the independent or the county's contractor that we have secured their timeline. So right now we don't have a place in their schedule just yet. We're really shooting for March, but it may linger for 2 to 3 weeks. But we really want to be able to pull everything down within the planting season of spring. All right, I just kind of went over a little bit of that. Again, the LDA permit as well as the demo permit have been applied for and are being transferred over to the contractor. Just some internal Arlington County kind of processes that we are in now. The utility disconnections have been completed for this property. The hazardous material abatement will take place right before demolition. There is a state mandated 20-day notification period. Excuse me. And that would all be managed by the state. So once we get to that scheduling for the contractor, and the contractor's is goal, I guess consulting. It's either Goal Engineer Inc. or Goal Consulting. But once they have a schedule ready for us, they will then start that 20-day notification to the state, and they will have inspectors. State will send out inspectors for abatement and to make sure that there are no particulates released in the air and there's not a hazard for the surrounding properties while this property is being abated. And then once the abatement process is done, that can take anywhere up to 2 weeks. There wasn't much asbestos or hazardous materials found within the site, but it could take a week or two with pulling out and actual hauling off. So right after that's done, we have the Goal Consulting will have the green light to start to pull down the actual structure. Depending on weather and other unforeseen issues, there may be a slight 2 or 3 day pause, but we don't foresee, especially in that March-April time range, any kind of hiccups, hopefully, cross our fingers. So everything will be kind of smaller scaled because it is in a very delicate and residential area. So you won't see like large, commercial size bulldozers or cranes of that nature. However, there will be some of the small tracks and small tractors, not tractors, but trucks and excavation cranes that will be on site to help pull down the property. And so after
John?
demolition, yep.
Sorry, there's a couple questions. Someone had asked about phone and cable utilities. I don't know if there's anything elaborate with that disconnection, or they just, remove it in the house, and then, if the lines are buried, they just remain underground. But
yes, it's kind of twofold. Communications were to be removed. I did see when I was there a couple of weeks ago that was still connected to the house. So we will have to have somebody or the demo contractor will have their people, pull it down. There won't be any disruption for any of the other houses. It would just be for that property. And if they are buried, they will stay buried. That is more of a kind of a switch issue with either Comcast or whoever's delivering cable and or communications to the property.
okay, Sounds good. Thank you. We also have a question about tree protection, but I know we are going to be talking about that in a couple slides, right? So
Yes, tree
Mhm.
protection will come up in the next couple of slides. So
great. Thank you.
I will move there shortly. After demolition, the materials will be sorted and separated, and will removed from the site. And after we pull down the property, the actual structure, the site will be stabilized and planted immediately after demolition. So this will be a temporary stabilization measures. That's kind of like hay and or light seed, depending on if we are in the planting season. The final restoration planting will be completed during after March, mid-March, or was deemed by our urban forestry for planting this spring. And again, as I've mentioned, Eileen, we can go to the next slide. Sorry. As I mentioned, that schedule will be adjusted due to weather conditioning and or subcontractor contractor availability. Once we get the schedule, we'll be able to put more information on the website about exact dates and times. But as of right now, we're still kind of trying to figure out their queue of work and where they can fit this property in their demolition. I did just see a question pop up. Existing fencing. Yes. We have no plans to remove any fencing, either shared or in the front of the property, or in the back of the property. There is no front fencing. So that is to stay and remain. We will not be removing any fencing. And so during demolition, we ask that there will be signs posted, but we ask, to be a bit cognizant of parking right in front of the property. There will be heavy machinery and trucks going into the property. The actual physical demolition shouldn't take more than 2 to 3 days. So I don't think it'll be a longer nuisance than most construction projects or demolition projects. But there will be that pause in the front of the property just for access and for contractors to access the site and leave the site. And our construction work hours for this project will be in noise ordinance are Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and work that doesn't produce noise, which will be pretty much the interior abatement, can be done within those hours or outside of those hours. However, but that'll be done before the building comes down, and we don't have work on holidays nor weekends.
I think we had another question about fencing, which I guess maybe, I don't know if you want to get to that as we get into the plans for the property exactly, but
why is fencing not being removed?
I can answer that.
Okay.
We're not removing the fencing on the properties because many times, some of these properties, the fences are along the perimeter and other people sort of use the fence to keep, in other words, they fence in more than one property. They're on a shared boundary line. And but if we were to take the fence down, that might leave the other property unfenced. And there were people that expressed concern about dogs and pets and kids and stuff that might get out of the yard. So for now, we're leaving the fences in place.
Thank you, Liz. Here's a bit more information about the hazardous material abatement. Survey was done last September, and there are asbestos containing materials that were present. That is in like doorway jambs and window caulking, as well as vinyl flooring, which is typically in the basement of these older homes. Lead-based paints were also present. And so with this uh, survey, a contractor was notified, and we were notified at the property that we will need to perform abatement activities prior to demolition, just to safely remove these materials from the area, and not have them kind of expose other residents and or passerbys to these hazardous materials. So the abatement workers will require to wear a PPE, as you can see on the images on the right side of the screen. Pretty standard, like hazmat suits, gloves, goggles, and this protection is just to keep the workers safe, and as well as will be warning signs when we get to that portion of abatement. And so negative air machines will be placed in windows, so nothing that is released into the air is coming out into the atmosphere. It will all be managed. Interior, they will have storage rooms inside of the house. If it takes more than a day or two to get all of the ACMs out of the unit. And so this room will be sealed off and will not have any kind of access to exhaust or to the natural atmosphere. Again, to kind of keep everything contained within the structure. And this will all be mandated and inspected by the state. So it's not so much a county thing. This will be a state regulated and state inspected process. Once we're done, they'll remove everything. Once they're done removing everything from the surfaces, this will all go from probably bags or trash bags, hazardous materials bags, to a specific type of dump truck and then hauled off immediately from the site. This won't sit on the site for longer than an hour or two while they're moving the material from that storage room to the actual uh, uh, receptacle that will haul it off the site. And so that's pretty much the process of how it will go. And we can go to the next slide. All right, so what to expect during construction. This is for the neighbors, the neighboring properties. There will be some inconveniences such as dust, noise, and debris. But again, dust control measures and silt fence will be installed around the property areas. Debris will stay within the site. The construction entrance will house basically the dumpster to remove the structure and directly into the dumpster and then off the site. There will be temporary parking restrictions, as I mentioned earlier in this. And there will be some increased traffic due to contractors and subcontractors doing their portion of demolition. Sidewalk detours for safety. There will be heavy machinery in use, and not everyone has a hard hat. So we ask that you cross the street if you are, needing to walk past the property during the time of demo. So yeah, there will be a bunch of folks walking around the site and trying to make sure we get this down and done as quietly and quickly as possible. And next slide. This will go to the earlier question. So in the screen left top image, there is tree protection. This is the type of tree protection that will go on the 5 trees that are highlighted that are within the site. The trunks are within the site. This, I think it's actually more like 8 trees, but oh, I see. See now it's much smaller, but this will go around each tree, and this is how we will protect the trees as we are pulling the medium to light machinery through the site to demo the concrete pads, auxiliary structures, as well as the front lee walk and the actual house. So this image will also shows our silt fence, which is in the top right corner at the 1 o'clock position. This will go along our limits of work. We do not plan to disturb the northeast, corner of the property. Everything that we need to pull out is going to be done just to the west of that line, that sight line. Existing fences along the northeast and west property lines are to remain. Interior fencing to be removed. But I do not think we have any interior fencing at this property, but I could be mistaken.
I think it's just the like the gates between the house and the fencing on the side. So it's like a couple feet worth.
Okay. And that is on the western property boundary?
I believe it's on both sides.
Okay. Okay. And these are a list of the trees that'll remain, the pear trees in the front, the crepe myrtles along the western boundary to remain, yellow poplar to be saved, as well as the red maple. And this driveway will be the last thing that'll be pulled out. It will be the construction entrance to the property and access to the site. This will probably house a bunch of the heavy materials as well as the dumpster to remove and haul off all of the demo material. Was there other questions?
Yeah, there's a couple other questions about the driveway that goes to 18. Is there another driveway that goes to Upton Street? Someone was asking about.
That is the 4437 property.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then Charles was asking about a tulip poplar close to the house at 4419. And actually, Charles, I think we maybe on the next slide we will show some of the tree the root protection matting that they will be having for the sort of the back part of the property. So I guess you can let us know exactly where your tree is, but there will be some root protection, which I think is shown on the next slide. So.
Yeah, we can go to that next slide, Eileen, if there's no other questions on this.
Okay.
Thank you. So as Eileen just pointed out, the red arrow is pointing to that hatch that kind of is through the middle of the top end of the site. That will be the root protection matting, and there will be root protection matting in the front as well for any of the light to heavy machinery that we are using on site to demo the property. And this will protect off-site roots as well as the trees that are on site. It's probably 4 to 6 inch and kind of topped with mulch to kind of prevent crushing of roots at the ends and or roots at the base of trees. It has been approved by our urban forester and that department, and it has been very successful in most parts of demolition, especially with light to mid machinery. This is the grading plan that we're looking at now. This blue arrows that kind of point from east to west. This is the drainage pattern that exists currently today and we will keep the same drainage pattern, but we'll also kind of funnel it towards the driveway entrance. And that is to make sure that we have water that is flowing through the property going to the catch basin that exists just to the west of the driveway entrance. And so, yeah, with everything kind of removed, structure and cement, impervious area, excuse me, it'll be much easier to kind of direct any of the topical runoff the way we want it to flow off the property into the public space. And yeah, these kind of have disturbed areas that will be seeded. That is the cement or the impervious areas around the footprint of the house and the actual footprint of the house. And that we'll get a look at our planting plan of what will go in that area. Any questions on this particular plan? There's 10 to 15 feet from the northeastern corner of the house. Yeah, we will not be in that area. That limit of matting is the extent of where our machinery will go. So I don't believe we will encroach on your critical root zone for that poplar.
You have to get into the chat or do something.
Okay, I think Alex has his hand up. And
Yeah,
I think there
am I
is some
supposed to-
kind- Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Am I
Yeah.
supposed to put my questions in the chat, or can I ask them orally?
Either way is fine. We're
Okay.
we're usually we're pretty informal. We'll
Okay.
take any and all questions.
Yeah, but I guess you explain why the water, why you want to direct the water into the street as opposed to just trying to keep it on the property and, trying to make sure as much of it drains into the ground as possible. Because if you direct it in the street, can't that create greater flooding for the people who are down the hill and downstream from this house?
And
Yeah, Liz. I
yeah,
don't know if you...
the water already drains towards the street. It's just it drains a little differently, and so we're really not changing any of that. We're just trying to make sure we don't drain the water onto the existing any other neighbors. They are all concerned about that.
Yeah, and in heavier rainstorms, I mean, I think it's important for folks to kind of understand that, some water can soak into the ground, but at a certain point, the soil and everything becomes saturated, and then water will run over the surface or, run over from driveways or sidewalks or whatever areas. So, obviously, it's great, as much as we can get to soak into the ground, but there is kind of a limit of capacity of what is able to soak into the ground, and then it starts running over the surface and other spaces as well. So,
so you're saying that if you don't direct it into the street, more of it will go onto Charles's property.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the grading here, they're trying to grade it, to the side and then kind of down the swale in the driveway out to the street. So just to kind of give it a specific pathway that it can flow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Eileen, if you can highlight one of the contour lines there, the contour lines are going from the right-hand side to the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're grading a little swale along the driveway to pick that water up so it does not cross over the property line to the best of our ability.
Yeah. So these kind of gray squiggly lines, are kind of showing the slope. Yeah. So the water is going to naturally go to that side.
Right. So and of course the water now, the house is there. So the water would, isn't running, it's the house kind of acts as a block, you know what I mean? But when the house is gone, that's what those bends are through where the one arrow that goes right to where the middle of the house used to be. We're going to make the water turn and go down the driveway. So it does not keep going across the property line.
Okay. And I think, James, that was kind of the gist of your question. How will it protect the property next to it? But again,
Yes,
the
thank you.
water's trying to run across the property, and they're going to create a swale, on that side and into the driveway to direct the water down and towards the street.
And a swale is kind of like a small valley, a small kind of gutter that'll collect, and it'll be natural. There won't be any concrete or anything. It'll just be a natural kind of depression that will then discharge where the driveway entrance is, the existing driveway entrance.
Okay, I think, yeah, we do have a question about 4437. We don't have those plans up right now. I can pull those up shortly, but I think we did want to at least, get through the information about the 4423 property. So I can find the plans, or I think they are on the website as well, so we can pull that up shortly. But let's let John, I think, go ahead with the rest. I think there's just a couple more slides about.
Actually, can we ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, we live at 4427, and what's missing from your diagram is when there's a major flood event, the water doesn't come in the direction you've indicated. It comes from the corner of Upton and 19th Street. And so when you finish regrading after the house is removed, will the land where the driveway is now, will it stay at the same elevation as the driveway, or are you going to raise it?
It'll be at the same elevation.
Okay, it's critical. We have a window on that side of the house that is only 2 inches off the ground. And currently, the natural flow of the water is away from our house towards their house and their driveway. And it's really important to keep that orientation and those elevations and that water flow.
Yes, we have designed and are planning to keep that as a swale. It's kind of hard to see with the plan so small, but we have accounted for the way the existing infrastructure exists to keep it that way.
So the water that's coming from the backyard of 4427, it'll have a path to go downhill into their driveway still.
If that's what's currently happening, yes.
Yes, that's currently what's happening.
Yes, the driveway elevation will remain the same.
Okay. And so is the swale going to be essentially the same width as the driveway?
It depends on how fine we can grade without ruining roots of the rest of the trees in that area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the swale will the swale extend back into the area of the garage?
So you can see the bends on the, I don't know if you can point to the bends on the contours. Yeah.
Yeah.
See those? Those are the contour. Those are the proposed contours right there. And see, they have those little V's on them. The water goes along the V. So we're not touching the property line, and we're actually, because we can't grade over the property line. And, there are some trees there that the arborist was very careful that we weren't allowed to, disturb the tree roots.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
As long as
so it's not going to change along the property line. The contour along the property line isn't going to change.
Actually, we would hope that since you now have the use of the garage space, that it would actually improve some and pull it more towards the center of their yard.
Well, the problem with that was we have the trees that nobody wants us to touch, right? We have to preserve the roots of those pear trees up front.
Oh, that's fine.
And there's trees on the side. Yeah. So there's only a limited area that we're actually grading.
Right. I'm not talking about the area near the trees. I'm talking about more.
But it's the critical root zone. See that there's a zone in which we can't disturb much land.
But what I'm suggesting is that what is now part of the garage, there's no roots under the garage. And that could be graded downward so that water will flow more towards the street and away from our property.
So that's what the contour lines are showing, that we're showing that there's a little V there that's going to pick up some of the water and divert it along the street. To go to the street where it could be, it'll go down to the catch basins.
Okay,
We're not really changing a lot of the, the drainage is kind of not being changed a whole lot. But we are trying to, inside the lot, inside the property line, we're trying to grade a small swale there to try to divert the water away from the property line and go towards the street. That's what the little blue arrows are trying to show.
okay, I just wanted to express our interest in making sure it stays at least neutral to what it is now.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for your question. Okay. I think Jen, we had a couple questions about the timing. So again, we are, still, I think, waiting on exact timing, with working with the contractors, but we will continue to share information. And we also have the web page, so we will post information on the web page as we get closer. But obviously, we will let everyone know before any of the work gets underway. So. And I think we also had a question about trying to consolidate, and do some of the demolitions together. I know we have, gotten that question before. I think each one has to be permitted and create plans and permitting separately. So they're kind of moving through the system in that way. But I don't think it's impossible that we might be able to do some together. But I think at this point we are just trying to, to deal with each one individually and get those the houses removed. So.
Well, there's also 3 different contractors that are being used,
Okay.
and they have to be rotated. Those are procurement requirements that we have to meet.
Okay, that's good.
So the only way we would do 2 of them together is if 2 of them settled and we permitted and everything went identically. And that's not actually how it's working. People are, we're acquiring them at different times and starting the permitting process at different times.
Okay, thank you. And then someone also noted, the end of March is spring break. So that's, that's possible that we may have some work going on then. So.
And I think 80 has her hand up.
Okay. Yep. I think, I thought she was the one I thought she was just asking the question about the driveway but.
Okay. 80, is your hand still up, or do you want to put it down? Or do you have a question?
No, hands down. You answered. We asked our
question.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. I know sometimes the hands don't go back down. They just get stuck. Okay, so I think go ahead, John.
Well, we'll jump into the planting plan. This is just an overview or aerial, of what it'll look like afterwards. On the left-hand side, the existing conditions shows the structure. The right-hand side will show pretty much where the structure was is where the planting plan, the seeding will be done. Excuse me. And that'll be the extent of the kind of natural seeding planting that I'll show you in the next slide. And here is the natural local seed mix that was developed by our landscape architect and UFA department. And we have a custom seed mix that'll have the 12 different species within this mix. And I'm not for sure exactly how much of what will be prevalent or which would be the most prevalent. But this is the mix that we'll have. And this will only be in the area of the existing footprint. This will not be the entire length and width of the site. This will only be in the footprint of the house and some of the back patio area that was impervious prior to demo. And as we have stated, the site will be maintained by the county contractors. We have mowing every 2 weeks during the growing season. It's pretty much March through October. Snow removal from sidewalks during the winter season. And leaf removal is not required through the county ordinance. However, during mowing of those late season mows, most of the leaves should be mulched on site and kind of decay there right there on site. So it looks like there was a question.
Sure, we have a couple questions. Liz had asked about the timing on the demolition. Wouldn't it make sense to wait until all the plans are filed and permitted? Because there will be, these empty lots without the houses for some period of time before, we develop plans for, infrastructure improvements. And so Liz, I don't know if you want to jump in and answer this as well, but in general, we did not feel that it's a benefit to anyone to have a vacant property kind of sitting there, waiting, while we,
Right.
Acquire additional properties. So anyway, Liz, if you want to jump in.
Right, that's right. As soon as the property, actually, as soon as the properties are acquired, we begin the permitting process. In some cases, if we know, in some cases, we can start a little bit sooner if the person is staying for a little while before they actually vacate the house. We actually start some of the surveys and that kind of thing and the drawings before. But generally speaking, we don't, do that until we know that the property is under contract with the county. And again, and once we do the closing, because all of that gets approved by the board. So as all of our contracts. So that's why we're not going to leave them. And there's no advantage. Again, these properties are subject to a lot of flooding if there's a storm, and then there's just a lot of issues regarding the vacant properties. So we are going to continue to remove them as we permit them and get the contractor on board. And they're going to be vacant. I mean, nobody's proposing any new houses or anything here. So that the fact that they're going to be vacant, they're going to be vacant. I mean, we're not building any other houses or buildings on these properties. So I just wanted to say that. And then there will not be a catch basin where the house is. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And one of the reasons is that the ultimate use of the property has not been determined yet. And the catch basin, therefore, it may not even be useful in any way, shape, or form in the future. So we're just not quite sure yet. So that's why we're not doing that.
And as to what will be mowed, again, this seed mix will only exist in the footprint of the house. So there is a lawn in the back of the house. There's a small bit of lawn in the front of and sides of the house that will be mowed by county contractors.
John?
Yes.
Can I ask, I know we go back and forth on this, but a lot of us are gardeners in Waverly Hills, and we're not really clear on why you all think that native seed mix will not require any weeding. I don't understand that, because normally native gardens do require some weeding.
Yeah, but this isn't a garden, Sandy. This is landscaping that we're putting in here because we have to put something in because we can't leave it. We have to have something there to prevent the erosion. And we tried to pick, these are supposed to be low maintenance plants. That's one of the reasons it's a custom plant mix that we used along with, again, we don't just go buy seed. We have to go through vendors that the county has procured their services for. And so that's what we've done. They're supposed to be low maintenance and easy, because we had problems on 6415, we wanted plants that are easy to germinate, and that's what we're hoping, although sometimes that didn't work out, so hopefully this is a better mix.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm sure it looks like it's a good mix, the little I know about that, but I do think regardless, somebody will have to be weeding this periodically. So we'll
I don't
see
believe
how
the
it
county
looks.
has a contract to weed right now. We had a contractor that we were using, and they basically told us they weren't making enough money on it, and they didn't really want to continue doing that kind of work. So
Okay.
right
Well,
now,
we
I'm
can-
going to tell you that that's not
Okay,
probably going to happen.
we can work on that, try to figure it out later.
This is and shoot. I don't know how to come in the normal way, but the county ordinance requires that you weed these properties. So if you're not doing it, you're breaking the county ordinance, just pointing that out. So I'd suggest you get a contract to do so.
Okay.
Well, I
Liz,
believe there are county ordinances about the height of plants and things like that. But that, again, we're going to be managing that through mowing. So I don't, again, I know there's the refuse and there's an ordinance related to that, but it typically is more for, again, if someone completely stops doing any kind of maintenance activities on a property. So it's not as specific to which plants are growing on the property. It's more related to the height of the plants.
Can I step in for just a
Sure.
moment? It's Demetra, I'm sorry. Liz, you know that, and I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole, but I'm just being transparent here. A lot of you have gone over to the home on Crossman Run and you've kind of surveyed that, and Sandy's been very open with me about communicating the concerns about that property. Some of it, and I'm not blaming anybody, but some of it is, as Eileen said, and as I alluded to early on, this is a new program. The county has never before acquired properties for this purpose. So we're really kind of creating a new system here. I spoke with Liz, and it was her idea earlier this week that we actually, as Stormwater, put out an RFQ or an RFI for our own contract, and we discussed making it pretty broad. Hopefully we'll be able to find it in one contractor, because up until now, we've had to catch as catch can with 6 to 7 different contracts in different departments and offices all over the county, where this one covers that one covers that, and they're not our vendor, and we are an unanticipated task, and basically you just don't get the level of service that you really require. So if we put out our own RFI, I would like to have services, comprehensive services, including but not limited to, and can we put weeding on there? Because as you know, I would rather have a gun and not need it than to need it and not have one, because
Right,
of
Demetra,
the way
so-
purchasing goes. So I
Right.
think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I will say to the community that, this is some of the conventional methods of dealing with mitigating the flood in this neighborhood were not, feasible. And so we're doing something a little unconventional for the county. And likewise, some of the way the contracts in the county are structured are a little more conventional than maybe we need. And so we are exploring the possibility with our procurement department to see about trying to get our own contractor that would be more responsive to our needs.
Right.
This
And I
is
would
it.
like a contractor, and I'll be quiet after I say
Right.
this. I would like a contract scope that has
Right.
room in it for flexibility and adaptability.
Right.
This
But
is
I mean, we have to, procurement, our procurement department has something to say about all that. It's not something that we can dictate to them sometimes, but yes, that's our goal.
okay. This is Adrian Chute. I'm asking about the leaves again. One of the things this last October, John, I think you were saying that the lawn mowing goes through October and that it's going to mulch the leaves. Well, if that was done this past October, it didn't do a very good job. So consequently, there are leaves all over these properties now, except for the Leto's property, that are killing the lawns and blowing onto my property. And so I want you to include responsible treatment of these leaves in this new contract you're going to do.
Yeah, we're gonna, like Demetra said, Adrian, we're looking at trying to get a contract that's more responsive to our needs and for the type of work that we're doing now. So that's all I can tell you. I mean, it hasn't been, we have to write the scope up, and there's a lot of coordination involved in this. So we'll be working on that. Right.
Well, this is
But in the
Duke,
meantime, the buildings are going to be demolished.
This is Duke Banks here with a
May I
question.
speak with
Wait,
Demetri?
wait a second, Adrian. I think Mr. Banks has a question as well. Go ahead, Duke.
Yes. The question is more, as I understand it, generally open space that's county owned for the maintenance and whatnot has usually been handled by the Parks Department. That includes like medians and whatnot.
No,
But DES, to my knowledge, has not had that much of an experience of maintaining, landscape and, on an ongoing basis.
We
So-
begged DPR to help us maintain the one property over
Yeah.
in Crossman Run. And for months, we begged them and got no response.
well, and I need to say that, yeah, they do the parks properties, but they don't do all the properties, and their contract specifies some of the properties that they're going to do, and these properties aren't on their list of properties that they're going to do. So they have capacity issues as well that, again, we have to all live with that. And so, right now we're using a facilities contract. We used a different we've used several different contracts to take care of these problems.
Having studied some of the park things, they I think are underfunded on the maintenance side, and I can see some of the reluctance. But but I think instead of going off with private contractors, and all of this type of thing, as a site unknown, and basically taking some of this money and basically, increasing the maintenance capability of Park and Rec, because they have
no
experience in that
capacity
area.
whatsoever.
They use private contractors too.
Yeah, they use private
That's what-
contractors.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're using private contractors too.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I mean,
Just trying to think outside the box, that's all.
I appreciate that.
We appreciate it.
We're
yeah.
all doing that right now.
No,
We're
these are great ideas. And if we sound kind of weary, it's because we spent
Well-
around a year,
well,
trying to make that work.
What happened now at Cardinal School? Well, a vault was put in because of flooding at Westover, and then the grounds were then brought back to normal. Who maintains that? Is that the school maintaining that, or is that DES maintaining it?
No,
through contract?
the school has a contract and an MOU with the Department of Parks to maintain that field as grass. They mow it.
It gets very confusing trying to follow who does what.
You're absolutely
I know.
right. We've
Yeah.
It's not simple. I
It's like
know.
a
It's
maze.
not straightforward, and it sometimes is site by site.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Again, I just want to get a message to Demetra. Please have your staff include taking care of this leaf problem.
We will
part of
take
the-
care of the leak problem consistent with the county standards too. So know that, we're not going to diminish the value of properties, but we're really held to maintain a certain standard and not go beyond that standard. So let us do that. Let us get a contract in place. And if there are issues with the level of service after that, then I want to revisit it then. I don't want to presume too much now because these are hypotheticals.
Okay. We also had a question from Miss Lee, I think. Is there somewhere where we can see the seed mix growing now? And I don't believe we've
No,
used this on any
we
projects
haven't.
yet. So
Yeah, we haven't used it before. It was custom designed for this area, for these demos.
I guess my question is that, actually grouping things eventually would be much more aesthetically pleasing than having everything as a hodgepodge. I mean, some of these grasses are beautiful, the sedges and the asters, everything is really beautiful, but I could just see it become a mess, unfortunately. I'm all about natives, but that's a question, like, would we be able to go in there and start transplanting and moving things around so that it could become more pleasing later on as they grow?
Well, we can talk about trying to set up a voluntary program to help maintain these areas if that's what people want to do. We just aren't, for right now, I have to have something shown on my plan. We have to be able to tell the contractor what to do. And we have to stabilize the site. So this
Sure,
is where we
understand.
are. But yeah,
But-
this can be a longer discussion with people if they want to set up volunteer groups or whatever to help maintain this or whatever. Like I said, we're open to those kind of things, but we do need to move up, get the demolition completed.
Okay.
Liz,
And there,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's right. I just, and so who was it that drew up this mix? Concocted the mix?
So the county has contracts with some large firms, and they provide consulting services, including landscape architect services. And they're under a component of the contract, which is staff augmentation, which means we can kind of borrow them, and they work for us X number of hours a week, and we give them the work that we need them to do. And so they went to one of the vendors that we use, the county. They have to be approved county vendors, and we can't just go off to the guy next door or some guy off at wherever that somebody likes and buy their seed. So he went with one of our vendors, and they worked together to put together a mix that would be acceptable for this area and the growing climate and the amount of rainfall, all that sort of thing. I think it's more to deal with the temperatures and the seasons and things that are native to Virginia. And it had to be, available seed. It couldn't be rare or hard to get, that kind of thing. And so they put this together. They have a lot of experience supposedly doing this. I guess we're gonna find out, because we've never really used this exact mix before.
Liz, given the background and the experience of the firms, can we go back to them and ask them, even if it's not the exact same mix, can we ask them to get as close as to an approximation? It would be great to be able to even get visuals, still photographs or something of a similar mix mature, so we can kind of see that.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure that we can do that because I'm not sure that, like I said, this is a custom mix. It's
Yeah,
not
this
something
is
that
this is one of one. This is the
it's
first
one of
time
one.
they've
It's
put
I don't
together.
yeah, I don't know that we can do that. What you just suggested. So
But speaking in the long term, this is Sandy. Just going back to Puan's question, I think that Waverly Hills will continue to request a long-term landscape plan.
yes.
So whatever this looks like now, eventually there should be a comprehensive visual view and,
Right.
beautiful area in the neighborhood.
Nobody's disputing that, and just like I said, I'm trying to emphasize that we have to demolish the structures and we have to stabilize the area, and
Yeah.
we're trying to use
Yeah.
natives to do that in, and we're trying to be responsive and
Yeah.
and this is kind of new. And so, like I said, we're and I have to work within the contracts that I have, right?
Right.
Or I have to get a new contract, and that takes time, so that's where
Yeah.
we are.
Liz, can I ask you and John and Jennifer a question? So with, I guess, cutting to the chase, when tentatively or roughly would be the anticipated schedule of starting to plant the mix?
I think March 15th kicks off
Oh,
or is it
that's
April 15th kicks off the planting season.
It's March 15th.
March 15th. Okay.
okay. Oh, okay.
So
Basically,
soon.
yeah, once they remove the house, right, and then after they've completed the
Yeah,
grading.
you only have
yeah.
so many days. And what
Yeah.
we found out with 6415 is if you put a temporary mix on top, the temporary mix kind of choked out some of the other stuff. So, I think we want to lay the seed down as soon as we can. I think that was the plan, isn't it?
Yes,
That's pretty much
that is
it.
the plan.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was going to take longer. I was just curious how soon it would go down, because it will be, since it is a unique, discrete mix, it will be interesting to see, how it matures.
Right. And so again, there's time associated with getting a mix like that ready. You know what I mean? Like, you can't necessarily just go to these people and get it delivered, the custom mix. We worked this custom mix out quite a while ago with the vendor.
Okay, thanks, Liz. I did want to just note, I know folks had asked about contacts, during the demolition process. So we do have a construction manager with their contact information listed here. And then as well, you have John and Jennifer and my contact information. And then also, I know a lot of you have Liz and Demetra's information as well. So we just want to make sure that again, everyone knows that there are folks you can reach out to with questions. And then we do have the project website as well, where we will post, more schedule updates. So we did just want to wrap up this discussion on the demolition project itself, because we wanted to have a little bit of time, maybe for some of the broader questions, although I know we've kind of gotten into those already with some of the maintenance and landscape plan questions and things like that. But I just wanted to highlight this because I know folks had been concerned about contacts. And then Liz has a question in the chat, comment on the impact this will have on the value of contingent properties and rentals. And I think Gary also had a question about the sidewalk signs. So maybe we can take Gary's question first, and then Liz, will they be using some sidewalk closed signs during the demolition? I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Should that impede pedestrian access, we will have to figure out or submit a MOT plan for rerouting.
Yeah, the contractor will have to submit those plans when he submits for the permits for any sidewalk closures.
Yep. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay. And then Liz's question about the impact on the property values. So Liz or Demetra, I don't know if you want to comment on that.
The people that we have been dealing with have not indicated that there'd be any adverse impact on any properties.
No, I don't think that, and I know it's a narrow exemplar, but it hasn't had any impact whatsoever on adverse impact on the surrounding properties in Crossland Run.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, the maintenance was, I think, far more of a determining factor, because in Crossland, just finding maintenance and grabbing contractors were so difficult, and it was delayed.
Okay.
I think, yeah, leaving the vacant properties, the buildings is where we are concerned with that. And that's why we really do want to take them down as fast as we can.
Okay. And Liz, I did pull up, I had a question about 4437. I can, let's just get through these other slides and then we can share the plans for that. But again,
sure.
That driveway does go onto Upton. So that, that property was graded differently than the one that we'll be doing here at 4423. But I can share those in a moment. So
what was the question on that one?
Some people are confused about where the driveway is on this lot, and I think they're confusing it with the other lot, 4437.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So in a moment I can share those plans really quick, but I think we've touched on we've touched on some of these questions. I know we had you all had sent quite a number of questions, which we appreciate, getting those ahead of time so we can kind of get you information. I know we've sent back responses. So tonight we've already talked about a couple of these as well. Scheduling the demolitions, why we're kind of moving forward with them as they come in. The soils, I think we had a question. Oh,
bless you.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry if you can just mute yourself unless you have a specific question. Clay soils, they will be bringing in topsoil if there's a basement that needs to be filled, and there were some questions about why would we be compacting the soil and trying to encourage the soil to be as permeable as possible. But I think, as Liz had pointed out, it is important to compact the soil enough so that if you have water flowing across it, you're not, having erosion happening or sinkholes forming. So I think there's a balance with areas that they're going to be backfilling and compacting the soil, again, enough to prevent that. So, and then we had a question on underground water. And Liz, I don't know if you want to speak to that one, but
well, just so
yeah.
people know, just like water flows over land, of course, it flows underground. And the reason you have a stream is because the underground water is flowing and then it surfaces at the stream. And so, a long time ago, these streams that were there were put into pipes. But the water is still going. I mean, underground water, groundwater still flows, downward and by gravity and soil pressure through the soil, and then it comes down to where it thinks there's a stream, and so sump pumps, et cetera, can draw the water down towards them. Also, we know these houses have sump pumps, and it looks like groundwater has been a continuing problem in this region, which I'm not, nobody's surprised at that because that's where the stream was. So it's gonna, we're not changing the groundwater in this location. So the water's gonna continue to, probably go towards the underground stream, which again is pretty much corresponds to where the pipeline, the trunk sewer is. I think there was also a question about the size of a vault. At the Woodstock Park, we were at one time talking about a vault at Woodstock Park, but it turned out it was going to have to be very deep. And we had some, and it was going to require pumping and, backup generators that were objectionable to many people. And so we decided, I mean, it turned out that wasn't as feasible as we had originally thought. Um, and that vault at Woodstock was going to be, its surface area was smaller, but it was going to be deeper, and it wasn't as big as the Cardinal. The Cardinal vault is extremely large, and that was a unique opportunity. I don't think there's anywhere else in the county with that kind of opportunity because it is underneath an existing play field. There's no trees. It's all grass, and it was county-owned property, and it was under reconstruction anyway, the school, and they already had a contractor. So that's pretty unique, and I don't think we're ever going to run across that ever again in Arlington.
Thanks, Liz. Okay, and I think we talked about these topics as well, sort of the longer term plan to develop, a more consolidated landscape design again as we see which properties that we'll be acquiring and kind of the connection and layout there. So we've heard that request for sure, and also the comments about leaves and concerns about leaves. That is something again that Liz and Demetra had talked about with looking for a better contract that we can use for this maintenance work.
Yeah, I do want to point out that the leaves are not clogging the drains in this area. We have had them inspected, after the different storms, et cetera, and we do regularly inspect them. The issue is really not leaves blocking these inlets, it's capacity and other issues. But if you do see leaves that are blocking a line, there's a queue alert, there's a request online, and you can certainly call, and our crews will come and check it out. And if they think it's full of leaves, they'll vacuum it out.
Thanks. Okay.
Did you want me to cover that one, Eileen, or do you want to cover it?
Sure, if you want to. Yeah, we just, obviously, I think we're going to be, as Demetra mentioned, we're kind of at the beginning of this conversation about how the properties will be used and what purpose, they'll be serving. But we did want to highlight some of these considerations here, Liz, and if you want to talk to some of them, the key points, that'd be great.
Right. So, we are a stormwater utility now, but even before, there are some requirements, but it's probably more stringent than it was, how you spend the money. You don't use stormwater utility funding on other agencies' work. So, for instance, normally stormwater utilities don't maintain and rebuild parks. So when we consider the future use of the properties, we need to be cognizant of the requirements for Virginia law as to what funding for stormwater utilities can actually be used for. And so again, it was stormwater based on the stormwater tax that used to be the way we funded the program. It was stormwater funding that was used to purchase the properties and not parks properties. So that's another issue. So then we have the areas do flood. We know they flood. They've flooded repeatedly this area. And so it's going to continue to flood. One of the reasons we're trying to establish the overland relief path is because we know it's going to continue to flood. And the goal there is to allow the 100-year storm to flow through here without endangering people's lives and property. And then towards that end, of course, there are already large existing stormwater trunk sewers already present underground. And hence, those can't, you can't build stuff on top of those. You can't plant trees on top of them because the roots of the trees intrude into the pipes and cause problems. Also, when we do have to do maintenance, then, we end up having to, harm trees, and nobody wants to set out to plant trees that we know we will eventually have to harm. So that's another issue that we consider about how we're going to use these properties in the future. And also, because there are pipes there, and our capacity study and our stormwater master plan indicates that there are capacity issues in the stormwater pipes that run through here, and therefore it would benefit probably to have them expanded. So we need space to do that. We need space for the actual pipelines, if that's what we eventually do, or we need space for contractors and the heavy equipment because of the size of these pipes. And there's some pictures that we're talking about. That's only a 5-foot diameter pipe over there in the one photograph. So there's a lot of space. We needed a 30-foot, wide swath of area just to get the equipment moving up and down in the area. So, we don't want to plant trees where we are knowing we're going to be doing things to pipelines. And also, if you're putting in underground detention to hold water to mitigate flooding, again, there's a footprint you have to have, and you have to have space around the vault and actually on the vault. So there's limitations that, can be done when you install this kind of, infrastructure. So that all has to be considered for the future uses of the parcels. And none of these things are off the table at this time. So in other words, nobody has said we're not going to upsize existing pipes, and nobody has said that we're not going to put an underground detention tank there. So based on that, so like I said, a lot of things are on the table. None of them have been crossed off the list yet. So we need to be cognizant of that before we start planting lots of trees and things like that. So those are the issues that we're facing as we look at this. And just wanted to say again, the houses in this area are built right up against these pipelines. And for the people on the project that is shown there on the lower left, it was quite a nerve-wracking process having that level of construction going through there. And that was nowhere near to allow for the 100-year storm. So anyway, that's why we're being a little bit careful about how we structure, the temporary use of the property until these other decisions are made in conjunction with the community as to what's the best way to go forward. We chose the land acquisition program partly because any option that we chose, we still had to acquire property. There was really no option on that because there just is insufficient space in this neighborhood for any type of improvement in the storm drains. So I don't know if we want to move to the next one. So then, people are talking about we want to use it as casual open space. Well, if you look at the information that Parks has about casual open space, they don't have any standards for that. It's never been done. They don't even have any standards or anything about that. So, what people need to understand is that some of the uses that may go along with what they call casual open space may have noise, lighting, parking implications, uses that you may not expect, and like trails or other kinds of things that people want to put in a space. So, again, our goal was to leave this program or these lots, these parcels as, primarily a flood mitigation area, an overland relief space. And then people have, so if we do that, you know, and I will say this, again, the Parks Department is not known for their marvelous flood mitigation efforts. Again, their mission is different than that. That's our mission, is to worry about flood mitigation. Their mission is parks and recreation. And so they have a different perspective than we have. And we know that the area does in fact flood. So that has to be considered in anything that anybody wants to, you know, put there. And we are concerned over debris flows, which is, you know, when you have these large storms and there's branches and, you know, benches and all that kind of thing, it can be a debris flow, and it can move from one area to the next and cause damage in another area. We've also been hearing about the Arlington Neighborhood Program, and certainly they may very well be a very useful thing here, but until we have a better idea of what's going to happen to the area, what we're going to actually use these properties for, in addition to flood mitigation, because you know, that's the primary use, is flood mitigation, then, you know, it may be appropriate for them to come in and do some things. But I don't think any of that's been decided yet. So you want to do the next slide?
Sure.
So this is just information from the parks, I think it's called Public Space Master Plan, where they talk about casual use open space. And it says right there that they are still in the process of, right at the bottom, no standards, there's no available benchmarking or any other data for this type of public space. So they want to do some further analysis before that. And then they have some listed items that came up, and we did have a preliminary discussion with them. I'm trying to be transparent about that. And they come up with things that I was surprised that might be used for, you know, fire pits in the evenings, things like that. That, you know, again, the community may not really want to do that. And you might want to think about that. Because again, our goal was to have flood mitigation and then some ancillary kind of use that could go along with it. That wouldn't prevent flood mitigation or wouldn't aggravate the flooding that occurs there. So the next slide.
That's the last one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So we tried to answer everybody's questions and yeah, explain all the constraints that we're working under, and asking, you know, again, people are trying to be creative and think outside of the box and do what's right for the neighborhood. And we'll continue to do that.
I have a question for Demetra.
Is that Adrian?
Yes, this is.
Hi.
Hi. There's been confusion about the phasing of the project. Initially, we were told it would be in 2 phases. Now we're being told it's 3 phases. Which is correct?
You know, Adrian, I'm not punting. I think they're both correct. We had an initial kind of surge in early activity on the acquisition of properties. We do have internally, and unfortunately, we are not able to share it publicly. The county attorney has told us that they don't want us releasing information that may or could adversely impact the marketability of properties. So we do have a whole map of the entire Spout Run watershed and the corridor with properties that are marked, you know, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, with tier 1 being the most important to solution finding and management of flooding. We've had in the past couple of years, as everyone knows, a considerable spike in interest rates. And what is happening is that even people who want to sell the property because they want to remove themselves from repetitive flood and loss, because of the interest rates, they don't want to sell the property and leave Arlington. They want to buy another property in Arlington. So right now with the interest rates, they simply can't afford to buy a comparable property in Arlington. So we've had to kind of like now add another phase in there, and we're waiting for the interest rates to stabilize. We think that then we're going to find a pickup, and we'll be able to coalesce these corridors in a more orderly and comprehensive fashion. Does that explain? It isn't a change, it isn't an error, it's an adjustment and an adaptation.
Actually, you're answering kind of a different question, maybe at a higher level.
Mhm.
I'm talking about these existing properties.
Oh, the
Initially,
existing properties.
we were
Okay.
told there were going to be two phases. Phase one was to be demolition, and phase two was to be, you know,
Future use, I think, yeah.
Yeah, the
after.
future use, yes.
Mhm.
Okay, then in response to some questions from the community, we started hearing that this was going to be 3 phases for these properties that have been collected. So which is correct? Will
Again, and I'll try and kind of be more succinct and just more clear in my response. It basically is the same thing. There's the demolition phase, and then there's the post-demolition treatment of the properties. And
Okay.
again, because the acquisition of the properties has not been as coherent and as speedy as we would have liked to have, seen it occur because of market factors. Right now, we had because we aren't able, as Sandy was talking about, look, ultimately, we really want a coherent orchestrated plan for the entire corridor. And that's our goal. It's just that we're not going to be able to get that in one step as we had hoped, because this acquisition is happening in a little bit more of a disaggregated fashion than we would have liked. So it really is, it's still the same too, but we're having to come in with this interim phase that doesn't just leave the property with grass that we mow, that has some aesthetic element to it, because it is a residential neighborhood, but it's going to be a little bit different and quite honestly better once we acquire more properties and we're able to get more to, again, a cohesive final plan.
What is the timing of the interim phase? Is that, I know phase one is 1 year. The interim phase that you're describing, what is its length and when does it start?
Well, I think, and I'm going to invite John and Jennifer to correct me if I'm wrong, the laying down, the demolition of the properties is obviously not all happening at the same time, so it'll be staggered.
Yeah.
As soon as the demolition of the properties is done and we've done the grading and the removing of, the underground, in structures and stuff, we're going to put down the mix. And John, I think you told me on the current property that we're talking about, that will start on or about May 15th.
No, March to April.
March 15th, I'm sorry.
We can do it any time after that. You have to wait till it's still too cold. The temperatures have to stabilize.
So when you use the word interim phase, you're referring to laying down the seed.
Yes.
Okay. What I want to get to is then the next phase, which sounds like a combination of figuring out what you're going to do long term and figuring out the ultimate landscape plan. So that phase will last for, are you going to tie the landscape plan to when you decide about what infrastructure you're going to put there? In other words, can there be a landscape plan? It's going to take you a period of years to collect all these properties. Can there be a landscape plan that is done in between
the final use or before the final use is determined?
Exactly. And that's what I've been trying to get at. And if so, when could that landscape plan be laid down?
So I think, to me, it depends on, what, it partly depends on the community. In other words, we don't have total control over that. So if people accept some of the constraints that we've talked about, that they're, we don't really want to plant a lot of trees. We don't recommend planting a lot of trees in the areas that would be.
I'm not talking about trees. And actually,
I know, but that's what I'm trying to say. If I'm going to, it is, I don't think anybody's going to support planting trees in an area where we would eventually dig them up in the next couple of years to put in a detention vault. So, but if you mean, but okay, we'll go with a meadow, then, that's a different story. That, can be done differently, right?
Or maybe other smaller plants, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's just a balance between making large.
Adrian, I understand what you're asking, and I'm just going to tell you, I don't think I can give you a precise answer. Anyone can give you a precise answer right now, because there has to be a kind of really deep engagement and fulsome engagement. And I would prefer from time to time in-person engagement of the community, because you're not talking about trees, but we've heard about trees from a number of your neighbors.
Okay.
So we're having a conversation with all of you, and what we're trying to balance is, what can we do? When can we do it? And to what extent can we do it? And I think that I think, to be honest with you, coming down with a kind of mutually agreed plan where not everybody is getting everything that they want, but they're happy with, the result, is probably going to be the first step in being able to tell you when we can deliver that. But I think right now you're saying, when can you, and I'm not accusing you. I'm just saying right now, I can't tell you when I'm going to give you something that hasn't been determined yet. And I think we do need to have that engagement, tonight is the first step, but a deeper engagement with the community. Some of you have wanted to have, children's amenities there. Others have said, no, I don't want that noise close to my house. And these are all fair elements. But I think if we, continue this conversation, it becomes a negotiation on a community basis. You know what I mean?
Well, Demetra, I guess what I'm trying to figure out here is the landscape plan, are you willing to do beyond the seating? Will you be willing to do a landscape plan, an interim landscape plan beyond the seating, prior to deciding the ultimate use for these properties?
I think we are willing to discuss, design, and confer with all the neighbors to arrive at what would be a mutually agreeable plan. And then once that has been developed and there's consensus, then we can tell you, okay, this is a plan that we can implement on these kind of timelines. But I think, again, just getting that plan, the implementation is really depending on what it is. So we need to kind of come to what it is, and we're having.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm just asking, are you willing to disconnect this engaged landscape plan after it's developed? Are you willing to put it in before you ultimately decide what you're going to do with the property?
I cannot answer that question now until I know what the plan is.
Yeah, I think that I can only add my 2 cents worth, that, there's a lot of concerns, that we need to know, or there has to be at least some consensus on what is going to go there before anybody can tell anybody else what we're going to do. And we are hearing so many different ideas, everything from dog parks to children's playgrounds to, forested land so, until we understand, and there are other people that want, pipelines and detention vaults. So, until we have a better understanding, I don't know how we can, commit to what you're asking.
So this is Sandy. So we will start that process, as you all know. The committee will meet in March to talk about it, and then there will be the first formal community engagement meeting on April 3rd, which I'm hoping that you all will be at. Demetra said she will be there.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a FEMA audit, so
I should be able to be there as well.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I think we have gone through a lot of the material that we had prepared, and I know, like we said, we've answered a lot of questions ahead of time and sent out information. So we will post the slides, and I did did include the project specific, for this property 4423 website, and also our other property acquisition website as well. So you all can bookmark those, but we'll post the slides from tonight and also the video, and I'll send that out to the Civic Association and the Stormwater Committee folks tomorrow. So anyway, we just wanted to thank everyone.
Eileen, can you
for
just
tonight.
refresh
Mhm.
our memory on the corner house? When is the demolition expected to start on that?
I think they're both, we were expecting the 4437 one to be February, but
4437, yeah, it's gonna
slid
probably
until
drag
March.
into March.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I
Both of
think
them in March.
it's possible they could both be in March now, so.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
Yep, but
One
again,
may
we
still
will,
be ahead of the other. I
yeah,
don't
one might
expect
be early March, one
couple of
might be
weeks.
later March, yeah.
Yeah.
But we will, we'll keep in touch and keep folks updated as we get the more specific dates, so.
And one quick question, the committee was asking, some of the members were still hoping for some sort of salvage on the inside of the house on the corner. Is there any possibility of anyone being able to go in?
So I can't promise that, and I would discourage you from thinking it's going to go that way. But I'd have to. We do have a construction manager assigned right now, and so some of those decisions will be made by that person and their policies that they are going to implement. But I, generally speaking, discourage that because it's a liability issue, et cetera. And
Sandy,
I don't know that we can guarantee that.
Do
Yeah.
you know what kind of fixtures or whatever people are interested in possibly salvaging? I'll tell you what and again, I'm sorry, we're just government, we can't help it. The county attorney's office doesn't want us, we can't give permission because then you're a licensee or permittee by virtue of the permission of the board. So any injury that's suffered inside the house is our liability. And as you know, the county attorney's office is, very, very, risk adverse. So we had this question actually come up previously.
Yeah.
And if we had an idea of maybe what people might be interested in, we might, I can't promise it, just in the demolition, maybe have those removed and placed at a very specific time. It's like, come at this time or, lose the opportunity.
Yeah, we can ask, but I can't guarantee that because it has to do with how the demolition contract is written, Demetra.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, we'll see if we can get a little more information.
When is the demolition scheduled for on that property?
It's
March.
imminent. The permits,
okay.
the permits we have, we're waiting on a schedule.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Liz, I think your question about 4437, it's the property is being graded. Yeah, they're not planning on collecting water on 4437, but they're going to be grading the property similar, as with 4423, to direct the runoff to Upton Street and to the stormwater system, in the street.
So one last question. The website still only shows 4 properties that have been acquired in Waverly Hills, but I think we've been told that 5 have been acquired. Is that correct?
I will have to see. I think there's 4, and our 5th one is in Torreyson Run.
Yeah, I'm only aware of 4 at this time, but.
Okay, because I think most of the neighbors think that there have been 2 acquired on 19th Street. That's, I think, what we've been told by those property owners, but it's not listed on the website. So
we'll make an action item to get back to you, Sandy, with
okay, all right,
with the status. There may be properties in negotiation.
okay.
So we'll double check and come back to you.
Yep.
Okay.
I think the ones that have completed the acquisition process are the ones that I've put on here as of now. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you, everyone. And again, we'll be we'll be continuing this conversation as we've all discussed. So I will send out the slides and the meeting recording and things.
Yeah, thank
well.
you so much to all of you and to everyone who attended. Yeah.
Okay.
And Sandy,
Okay.
if there are any follow-up questions after the meeting, obviously you don't have to wait until April 3rd.
Yes, right.